A scepter is a symbolic ornamental staff, a wand held in the hand by a ruling monarch as an item of royal or imperial insignia. Sometimes it could be used for showing a sense of divinity. Antiquity. The was and other types of staffs were signs of authority in ancient Egypt. For this reason, they are often described as scepters, even if they are full-length staffs. One of the earliest royal scepters was discovered in the Second Dynasty tomb of Karsekemwe in Abydos. Kings were also known to carry a staff, and Pharaoh Andajib is shown on stone vessels carrying a so-called Mks staff. The staff with the longest history seems to be the Heqa scepter, sometimes described as the shepherd's crook. The Bronze Age rulers of Mesopotamia are not regularly depicted with scepters. However, in some instances, they are shown armed with bow and arrow and occasionally a mace. Use of a rod or staff as representing authority can be traced to the beginning of classical antiquity. Among the early Greeks, the scepter was a long staff, such as Agamemnon wielded or was used by respected elders, and came to be used by judges, military leaders, priests, and others in authority. It is represented on painted vases as a long staff tipped with a metal ornament. When the scepter is borne by Zeus or Hades, it is headed by a bird. It was this symbol of Zeus, the king of the gods and ruler of Olympus, that gave their inviolable status to the Kyriacs, the heralds, who were thus protected by the precursor of modern diplomatic immunity. When, in the Iliad, Agamemnon sends Odysseus to the leaders of the Achaeans, he lends him his scepter. Among the Etruscans, scepters of great magnificence were used by kings and upper orders of the priesthood. Many representations of such scepters occur on the walls of the painted tombs of Etruria. The British Museum, the Vatican, and the Louvre possess Etruscan scepters of gold, most elaborately and minutely ornamented. The Roman scepter probably derived from the Etruscan. Under the Republic, an ivory scepter was a mark of consular rank. It was also used by victorious generals who received the title of imperator, and its use as a symbol of delegated authority to legates apparently was revived in the marshal's baton. In the First Persian Empire, the biblical book of Esther mentions the scepter of the king of Persia. Under the Roman Empire, the sceptrum Augusti was specially used by the emperors, and was often of ivory tipped with a golden eagle. It is frequently shown on medallions of the later empire, which have on the obverse a half-length figure of the emperor, holding in one hand the sceptrum Augusti, and in the other the orb surmounted by a small figure of victory. Christian era. With the advent of Christianity, the scepter was often tipped with a cross instead of with an eagle. However, during the Middle Ages, the finials on the top of the scepter varied considerably. In England, from a very early period, two scepters have been concurrently used, and from the time of Richard I, they have been distinguished as being tipped with a cross and a dove respectively. In France, the royal scepter was tipped with a fleur-de-lis, and the other, known as the main de justice, had an open hand of benediction on the top. Scepters with small shrines on the top are sometimes represented on royal seals, as on the Great Seal of Edward III, where the king, enthroned, bears such a scepter, but it was an unusual form, and it is of interest to note that one of the scepters of Scotland, preserved at Edinburgh, has such a shrine at the top with little images of the Virgin Mary, Saint Andrew, and St. James the Great in it. This scepter was, it is believed, made in France around 1536 for James V. Great seals usually represent the sovereign enthroned, holding a scepter in the right hand, and the orb and cross in the left. Harold Godwinson appears thus in the Bayeux Tapestry. The earliest English coronation form of the 9th century mentions a scepter and a star. In the so-called coronation form of Ethelred II, a scepter and a rod appear, as they do also in the case of a coronation order of the 12th century. In a contemporary account of Richard I's coronation, the royal scepter of gold with a gold cross, and the gold rod with a gold dove on the top, enter the historical record for the first time. About 1450, Sporley, a monk of Westminster, compiled a list of the relics there. These included the articles used at the coronation of St. Edward the Confessor and left by him for the coronations of his successors: a golden scepter, a wooden rod gilt, and an iron rod named. These survived until the Commonwealth, and are minutely described in an inventory of the regalia drawn up in 1649, when everything was destroyed. For the coronation of Charles II of England, new scepters with the cross and the dove were made, and though slightly altered, they are still in use today. 2 scepters for the Queen Consort, one with a cross and the other with a dove, have been subsequently added.